Coming to you from a cozy little condo high atop Old Fourth Ward, Atlanta. Welcome to The Ron Show on America One Radio. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
And joining me right off the bat from the Atlanta Voice, my friend Donnell Suggs, editor-in-chief, who is back in the Atlanta area this morning after touring my hometown of Augusta, Georgia. Well, I'll be honest with you, I'm conflicted. I feel like I did back after Hurricane Katrina when I lived in Louisiana, just a few hours away. Actually, I lived in Alexandria, Hurricane Katrina, of course, striking New Orleans, and I lived 3 hours away, and I wanted to do something, but I really didn't know what to do because, you know, there's this palpable fear. You drive into Augusta without gas coming back, and you're stuck there, and nobody wants to be stuck there right now. I'm reading folks who are managing to get on social media to tell us about their Amish lifestyle of late because there's no power, there's running water infrequently in patches of the metropolitan Augusta area. And, well, you were there yesterday. The Vice President of the United States swooped in and went around and checked out the scenery herself. President Joe Biden did a flyover in North Carolina. Tell me, Donnell, you've seen a lot of storm-damaged places in your lifetime in journalism. Where does this rank for you?
In that neighborhood that we stopped through with trees leaning on houses, like you would lean a broom on the side of the washing machine or refrigerator.
Yeah.
I haven't covered, because I didn't cover Katrina. I was in New York and I was covering sports, so I didn't cover Katrina. So I saw it, I didn't cover it. For me, this is really bad to see that and to see what I saw in Asheville. I was just in Asheville a couple of months ago covering the Trump rally. And then to see see the same area I was in, the downtown area I was in, look like a swimming pool. And I'm not trying to be funny here. I'm just saying that's how sad it looks. It was like, whoa, so this is just as bad. There's trees being on people's homes, you know, like they're twigs. And your front yards are totally, I can't see your front yard because there's all kinds of wood everywhere, and it's amazing.
So I sensed that the devastation was pretty bad the next morning when I started seeing some social media accounts from some friends, but it didn't really sink into me. And honestly, there's been so much attention throughout the rest of Hurricane and then Tropical Storm Helene's path that it feels almost as if Augusta has sort of been not given as much attention. In fact, I see a lot of this on social media, people complaining that Augusta needs to be seen for what it's dealing with as well.
I think what happened to Asheville is so dramatic and so bad and so Katrina-esque that our minds have been on North Carolina. Freaking Georgia will be okay, but no, Augusta needs help. It's not water help. It's all those pines. Those things are knocked down all up and down the highway going into town and all throughout town. So they need a lot of debris in regards to what happens when wind blows trees and knocks them down and they fall on things. And sometimes that thing is your home.
Yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, my younger sister and her two boys managed to get out of the house just in time before a tree fell on their house and essentially split it in half. So grateful that my oldest nephew was awake to get them up and out. They are, like countless others in Metro Augusta right now who are looking for temporary lodging. And thankfully, my father lives not far away. I talked with him a little bit yesterday. Still without power. Water is not a certainty in much of Metro Augusta either. Again, you know, I kind of chuckled when a friend of mine mentioned something about rebuking her newfound Amish lifestyle. She's not for it, but that's a reality for so many people. They're becoming grill masters because that's really all they have is to cook what they can still have or might be able to find in a store somewhere, and it's outdoor cooking and you know, solar lights inside at night to get them around the house.
Exactly. Parkers was saying, case of water per and down, and the ATM machines and the computers are down. It doesn't carry cash.
Yeah, that's another thing. You know, technology is wonderful until it
or anything until you use cash.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of folks caught with nothing but a debit card in their wallet and without cash. Yeah, you can't get very far right now. That's an unfortunate thing. So I know you are dedicated. You are a devoted Waffle House guy, and that's usually the barometer here in Georgia. If the Waffle House is open, things are okay or turning around. were there Waffle Houses actually open in the Augusta area?
I grabbed the chicken sandwich from one, but to go only selling sandwiches, only have no sweet tea. Why, you say? Because a lot of the deliveries that happen every day, i.e. the bread delivery, for example, hasn't shown up.
Yeah.
Sugar delivery, same way, hasn't shown up. So we don't have it. And that's no problem. I took a chicken sandwich with cheese, literally with 2 pieces of bread, cooked chicken and cheese, but it was great because I was hungry.
So talk to me about the gas station situation, because as goes the gas station situation goes a lot of the ability to get around and take care of trees and move some of these items around and get places reopened and whatnot. And you got to have electricity to work a gas pump. What's the gas situation like in Augusta right now?
A couple of gas stations downtown and in that area when you first get off the highway were open. And there were several pumps that were working. That said, I had to go inside and pay with cash. So some people don't have that.
Yeah.
ATM machines were down. So you can't even get that. You have to go to like a Wells Fargo or something like that and hope theirs is working.
Yeah.
Which it probably isn't either.
Without power.
And
right?
then and without power. And for someone that wanted some water, which is great, you only allow 1 per customer. So I don't know if you can split into 2 and get some. But they had a couple of pallets. But it's first world problems, but still problems nonetheless.
Yeah. So the vice president came to visit. How was she received by locals there?
Very well received by locals. She went to a senior center to give out plates of food. They already cooked food and water and whatnot. That was great. Well received there. Visited her family. We didn't get a chance to get the name of the family. I don't think they really wanted the name in the press, but we did get photos, obviously, video. A family of 5 who's had a tree that was on their house as well. The house is not totally damaged, but still a lot of damage, and you can't stay in the home. And she hugged on the mom and the daughters and talked to the dad. I thought that was a great moment. I mean, again, I think any human being would have done that. It just so happens to be someone running for president. I think any human being would have felt bad for these people who had a large pine tree on top of their house, damaged their home. So it was a good moment either way. Regardless if it was presidential or not, I think it was a good human moment. And then she had a lot of opportunities to shake people's hands and talk to them when we stopped by the utility center downtown. And she wanted to thank all the first responders and folks like that. Just city folks and people who are working and trying to get this thing done and don't necessarily get the credit because they're not the police chief or the fire chief. Might just be a lady who's working at the water department.
Right.
But she's still somebody that's trying. So she it was really nice to see how they received her. Some people couldn't believe she walked into where they worked and shook their hands and talked to them for a little bit and told them they're doing God's work. And I thought that was really nice. Again, another presidential moment. Didn't have to be grandstanding. I mean, yes, there were press, so we were there. But that being said, it still felt real. It didn't feel like she wouldn't do that again next year if she's elected president in November. So it feels like she would have done that again.
So you're saying that she caught some folks off guard, that they weren't even aware that she was coming to some of their locations.
You can tell because it's like you guys are in this meeting, you're gonna have this briefing, and normally you would have it with the mayor, of course, who was there, the mayor of Augusta, Garnett Johnson, and then other officials, local officials or whatever, FEMA folks, and they'd have her come in. They all were kind of like, "Oh my gosh!" So it looks like they were surprised. I mean, you still see her in real life. I cover her all the time. I've seen her literally shaking her hand and sat down face to face with her before, so I'm not shocked when I see her. But it's always good to see when people see her because they go, "Wow, like it's real." Look at that! Look at me here with her. I thought that was really cool. Yeah. You can tell someone didn't have an idea.
Donnell Suggs with the Atlanta Voice, going into my hometown yesterday to check out the damage firsthand, and our thoughts and well wishes out to everybody down in that way. It's devastating, and again, I'm sort of like I'm 2 hours away, and I'm like I still want to wait a little while to know that I can get gas in, say, Thompson or Greensboro or somewhere like that, so that I know I can get back because. It's not that I don't want to stay down there and visit with folks. I, too, don't like the Amish lifestyle. Nothing against the Amish, but I like my air conditioning and hot showers, man. All right.
I'm telling you.
I appreciate you giving us the update, my man. Enjoy the rest of your day. And
thank you.
Listen, I'm glad we didn't have to bring up the whole Braves Mets thing, but
well, we can. We don't
need to bring that up. We don't need to bring that up. Good catching up with you, Donnell. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you, brother.
Mm-hmm. So thanks to some wall-to-wall coverage via YouTube yesterday from WRDW TV 12, we have some audio from when the vice president was in Augusta, just speaking with some of the folks who were working, city employees and EMTs, emergency personnel. She was just kind of giving them a little bit of a pep talk before she went out to tour some more damage and before she spoke to the media. I want to let you listen in to some of that conversation.
And as I was saying to a group earlier, I know what that means. You all leave home, you leave family members who are in need of help and support to go and help people who are perfect strangers to you. And you do this work in these moments of crisis around the clock with an intention and with a level of care and love for community that is unmatched. And so I'm here to thank you. I know these are long days for you. I know these are days when folks are looking in your eyes to be convinced that everything's going to be okay. And sometimes you're sure of that, sometimes you're not. But you give people a level of confidence in the fact that there are folks who care about them and are working around the clock to make sure they're okay. And that's some of the most noble work anybody can do. So I came by to not distract you from your work, but just to say thank you. And please take care of yourselves, okay?
Yeah, that was Vice President Kamala Harris speaking with folks from the City of Augusta's Utilities Division. Those are the folks that we call when we're mad at because they are cutting our water off or something's not working. They never hear from us when things are going well. You know what I mean? So they never get the good side of the job. And I thought that was pretty nice that she stopped in to talk to the folks within the City of Augusta Utility Division. They literally had to shut their water system down because of debris and their filtration that had to be cleared out before they could start it back up. That doesn't make anybody popular in the City of Augusta's Utilities Division with everything else that's going wrong. But yeoman's work by those folks down there, and nice that the vice president stopped by to give them a little bit of a pep talk. So actually, before then, we have audio from, again, WRDW TV 12. They just did like about a 3-hour live YouTube stream. And that's, in a lot of cases, we're talking to folks who work in broadcast circles down there. The radio stations, not all of them are back on the air. Transmitters, without power, you can't transmit. And so in a lot of cases, some of the local broadcast folks down there, the TV and radio stations, are having to just do what they can online. I'm not sure what the status is for Channel 12 or WAGT TV 26 as well. So the 1226 news team here giving us the YouTube audio. When we come back, I'll let you listen in on some of the back and forth, a little bit of a briefing with Garnett Johnson, Mayor of Augusta, and Vice President Kamala Harris getting a lay of the land. Augusta getting the attention, at least now, we know that they've deserved for a few days in the aftermath of Hurricane and Tropical Storm Helene. You're listening to The Ron Show on America One Radio and Progressive Voices via TuneIn. Coming up on the 3rd anniversary of The Ron Show, by the way. Man, time flies when you're having all of this politically. As I broadcast to you 5 days a week, usually 5 days a week, from nearby to downtown Atlanta in the Old Fourth Ward neighborhood, covering U.S. and Georgia and southeastern and sometimes domestic and international politics from a left-of-center point of view on America One Radio and Progressive Voices via TuneIn. At Ron Show ATL on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads, RonShowATL.com for the show notes. After the Vice President and Senator John Ossoff toured some damage, Vice President Kamala Harris did address the media.
So I'm here in Augusta to first and foremost thank the federal, state, and local leaders. Mayor, I want to thank you for your leadership in particular on the ground. I am here to personally take a look at the devastation, which is extraordinary, and it is particularly devastating in terms of the loss of life that this community has experienced, the loss of normalcy, and the loss of critical resources. And so I'm here today to thank all of those who are working to get folks the support and the relief that they so desperately need and so rightly deserve. And that includes the fact that still in this community up to 60% of the residents here do not have power. Many have been without running water for at least a couple of days now. Many have water but no hot water. I was just talking with one of the members of the community and her daughter who lost her husband. And there is real pain and trauma that has resulted because of this hurricane and what has happened in terms of the aftermath of it. I do want to acknowledge and thank the first responders who have been extraordinary. Having met with them, they are the kind of folks that are the heroes in moments of crisis, who do extraordinary work that is about lifting up other people. As it relates in particular to the leaders who are here and doing that work, including the first responders, most of them, as it relates to the local folks, are folks who have personally, and their families have personally experienced loss and devastation, and yet they leave their home, leave their family to go to centers like where I was earlier to do the work of helping perfect strangers.
So true.
And it really does highlight the nobility of the kind of work that these public servants have dedicated themselves to, which can be in moments of crisis like this so selfless in the way that they do that work. The President and I have been paying close attention from the beginning to what we need to do to make sure the federal resources hit the ground as quickly as possible. And that includes what was necessary to make sure that we provided direct federal assistance. And that work has been happening. I want to thank the governor for his leadership and his close coordination with the federal government, with our administration. And I want to thank the local leaders for together creating a task force-like response, knowing that we are at our best when we work together and coordinate resources, coordinate our communications to the maximum effect for the community that has been impacted. And the federal relief and assistance that we have been providing has included FEMA providing $750 for folks who need immediate needs being met, such as food, baby formula, and the like. And you can apply now for anyone who's watching this who has been affected. There are FEMA personnel who are going door to door to interact personally with folks, especially those who do not have electricity. But also that aid, if you have electricity, can be applied for online, and I encourage people to do that. FEMA will just basically verify your address, and then the process should take hold. FEMA is also providing tens of thousands more dollars for folks to help them be able to deal with home repair, to be able to cover a deductible when and if they have insurance, and also hotel costs. Today I'm also announcing that the President has approved the Governor's request for 100% federal reimbursement of local costs. And Mayor, as you have pointed out, the burden to local governments, including the state government, is pretty immense. And so by announcing today and making the dedicated resources to cover 100% of local costs will have a huge impact on our ability to get relief to people as quickly as possible. And that will include, for example, what the federal government will do to reimburse local and state governments around issues like debris removal, which you can see just up and down this street, much less in other areas of the state and in the region. This is a big issue. I was speaking with one of the residents of the community who needs that big tree removed so she can actually get to work and make sure that her child is able to get to school when the schools reopen. So this is a very big part of the recovery process. That money of the federal reimbursement will also help with emergency services that are now being provided by the state, so that they can be reimbursed and then have the resources to keep providing those emergency services. Also, we will be covering the local government costs for food, water, and shelter. Again, resources that are desperately needed by the members of this community. And so my final point to the residents of this community and the region is that we are here for the long haul. There is the work that we have done together that was the immediate response, preparation for, and then the immediate response after. But there's a lot of work that's going to need to happen over the coming days, weeks, and months. And the coordination that we have dedicated ourselves to will be long-lasting to get families, to get residents, to get neighborhoods back up and running. And my last point is this. I think that in these moments of hardship, one of the beauties about who we are as a country is people really rally together and show the best of who they are in moments of crisis. And we've seen that throughout the region, where communities are coming together, where people are helping perfect strangers, where they are providing food, water, shelter for their neighbors, and that neighbor may be somebody they've never met before, but are doing the work of helping each other out. And I think it really highlights the fact that the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us, and that the strength of who we are is we come to each other's aid in a time of need. So I thank everyone for doing that kind of work every day. And with that, there is more work to be done. Thank you all. Thank you.
That is Vice President Kamala Harris addressing the media after spending a good bit of yesterday touring my hometown, just 2 hours down the road from Atlanta, Georgia, the city of Augusta, Georgia. This is The Ron Show on America One Radio and Progressive Voices via TuneIn.
Call or text The Ron Show anytime at 404-919-2725. The Ron Show on America One Radio.
Yesterday, J.D. Vance, fresh on the heels of his vice presidential debate performance, decided to again, at a rally, take questions from journalists. First of all, can you just imagine what it's like to be at a MAGA rally as a journalist and the person on the stage looks at the well, the press pool well, and says, "You guys have any questions? In this venue, surrounded by all these people?" Brave souls, man, brave souls. Anyway, this guy from Local 4, kudos to you for even asking this.
Hi, Senator. Will Jones from Local 4. I spoke with some elected officials or election officials last week about their concern about people who are trying to undermine our elections. Why didn't you answer the question last night during the debate about who won the 2020 presidential election?
Well, look, here's the simple reason. The media is obsessed with talking about the election of 4 years ago. I'm focused on the election of 33 days from now.
He then followed that up with...
By the way, to all of you listening out there, I believe that we are going to have the safest and most secure election in 2024 that we've had, because the RNC is fighting for election integrity in a way that frankly wasn't 4 years ago.
Does that include breaking into county election offices to steal voter data and software? Or no? Am I not allowed to bring that up? Governor Tim Walz also out on the campaign trail yesterday, reflecting on the vice presidential debate from Tuesday night.
When you're governor, congressman, you're trying to solve problems wherever you want a straight answer on something. The moment that really stuck out is I just asked the simplest of all questions that every single American should be able to answer. I asked him if Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. He refused to answer. It felt, especially in that moment to me, that Senator Vance was speaking to an audience of one. Now look, there is a reason Mike Pence was not on that stage with me. And let me just say this. I served with Mike Pence in Congress. We disagreed on most issues. But in Congress and as a vice president, I never criticized Mike Pence's ethics and commitment to this country, and he made the decision for the Constitution. Mike Pence did his duty. He honored his oath, and he chose the Constitution over Donald Trump. Understand, in that 88th minute last night, with that damning non-answer, Senator Vance made it clear he will always make a different choice than Mike Pence made. And as I said then, and I will say now, that should be absolutely disqualifying if you're asking to be the Vice President of the United States.
Yep. And then around 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, the news started coming out that Judge Chutkan released the hounds, so to speak, I guess. This from ABC News.
And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. Breaking news this hour, sweeping and increasingly desperate. That's from a new filing from Special Counsel Jack Smith describing the new details of former President Trump's effort to overturn the 2020 election loss. Joining me now with the latest is our Justice Department reporter, Alex Mellon. So what do we know, Alex?
Yeah, so Special Counsel Jack Smith filed this in response to the Supreme Court's July ruling that, effectively gave Trump a lot of immunity that he asked for in this indictment. And this is basically Jack Smith's way of piecing through every piece of evidence that he plans to put forward at trial and making the case that this is former President Trump acting in a private capacity, not an official capacity in any way. And in doing so, he's laying out evidence that we've never seen before that is introduced as part of this roughly 165-page filing. Things like former President Trump speaking to private family members and saying that it does not matter if you won or lost the election, you still have to fight like hell. Oh. Private admonitions, basically, that were brought forward to the special counsel by witnesses that Trump knew he lost and that the theories of voter fraud that he was putting forward were all baseless. Again, this is Jack Smith basically putting his entire trial, this brief reads as if it was special counsel Jack Smith sitting in a courtroom and delivering his final statement to a jury. But then again, obviously, Kira, the import of this coming out now, we're weeks away from the next election where former President Trump is set to try and get the vote from voters and go back to the Oval Office. So it's really shocking to see a document like this, so politically charged, coming out, a Justice Department product this close to the election. But this is all a result, again, of the Supreme Court's ruling and D.C. District Judge Tanya Chutkan getting this case back and instructing Jack Smith to come back to her with his case that this conduct should not be considered immune and that former President Trump should stand trial ultimately.
Holy f***ing shit. Y'all, it is only October 3rd, and we already have multiple October surprises.
Surprise, surprise.
Oh my God.
The unexpected hits you between the eyes.
Or square between the nards. My God, how many surprises can we have? I mean, let's count them. So far, it's only October 3rd, and the Jack Smith dump yesterday. That's a huge October surprise. Maybe a little early, honestly, but sorry. I'm kind of in agreement here. The American people have been wanting. There's been countless polls done that show that the American people want to know if the man they could be voting for is guilty of all the things that he's on trial for. The classified documents case, the American public would like to know if he's guilty of that. The January 6th insurrection, they want to know, is he guilty? Is he guilty of inciting an insurrection? They want to know. They would have liked it if our judicial system had hastily come to a conclusion that he was either guilty or innocent. The American people wanted that. They didn't want to be in the... Nobody wants to be in the jury. How many people dodge jury selection, right? Nobody wants to be in a jury. Nobody wants to be sequestered. Nobody wants to be, parked in a Best Western for a couple, 3 weeks, poring over evidence, making like $16 a day and getting fast food fed, twice a day. Nobody wants to be in a jury, yet the American public, kicking and screaming, dragged into a jury pool of 160 million or so? Yeah, we are the jury. And the good news is we don't have to be in lockstep. We don't have to find him guilty or innocent by unanimity, the way most juries have to. We're in the jury. And even then, Special Prosecutor Jack Smith, at the urging of Judge Tanya Chutkan, said, okay, well, here's what we have. You do with it what you will. Let's go back to ABC News, Kira Phillips and Justice Correspondent Alex Mellon discussing what now?
So I guess overall then, what does this mean for Jack Smith's case against Donald Trump?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to see now. I think this is back to D.C. District Judge Tanya Chutkan. She's going to read through this brief, examine each of the points that Jack Smith lays out, all these bits of new evidence that he tries to use to make the case that former President Trump was clearly in all these instances acting in a private capacity, not an official capacity. So she's going to obviously now hear arguments from Trump's team that they're going to put forward their case that this was official conduct, that he should be immune. Their big point, the former President Trump's team, is that specifically this case should be killed as a result of the conduct that is alleged between former President Trump and then Vice President Mike Pence. They say once that conduct conduct is ruled official, then the entire case should be thrown out. So we're going to see, obviously, the former President Trump's team come forward with their counterfiling. We'll probably see a hearing sometime in the near future where this is argued out. But again, I think the big news is obviously in this filing, the new pieces of evidence that Special Counsel Smith is bringing forward here.
Kira Phillips follows up with questions that I think we all have. So is this case going to happen before the election? Obviously, it can't happen within like 33 days, right? We just can't squeeze it in that fast. And what if he wins? What happens then?
So then I guess the case won't go to trial before the election?
No, of course
not. Does it go
no.
away entirely if Trump wins a second term?
Definitely.
Oh, obviously, yeah, no. If former President Trump wins election in November, he's largely expected to direct the Justice Department to drop all of, not just this case, but obviously the Justice Department is currently appealing the decision by Judge Aileen Cannon of Florida to dismiss his classified documents case, and that would be in line with DOJ policy. DOJ policy is that a sitting president should not have to face any federal charges while in office. And if Kamala Harris should win the election, then this would presumably move towards trial after the election, but nothing expected in terms of a trial before the election. This really is written, Kira, for the Supreme Court. They expect this case to land back in the hands of that six-member conservative majority that sent this back down to Jack Smith to basically go through piece by piece in his case and figure out what pieces of evidence they actually want to bring to trial and what they believe is immune from prosecution here.
Here's the problem. The evidence, and I keep hearing the word evidence, the evidence that is being submitted or that has been submitted is testimony. Not unless I'm wrong, unless there's something in here that I don't know about yet, and we'll find this out, I guess, as the days go on. Unless there's like secret audio recordings or something along those lines, text messages, and Donald Trump he's a mob boss. He's smart. He doesn't say things overtly. He insinuates. He browbeats around the bush a little bit, and kind of he lets other people say things and do things because the boss can't go down, you see. So unless there's, this is the American public, and this is where we are now, in such a hyper-partisan era, you have folks who are locked in. There is nothing that man can do wrong that's going to shake the core support that he has locked in 33 days before Election Day. The overarching reaction you're going to get from MAGA is, this is election interference. I don't even have to go to Truth Social to tell you that that's what Donald Trump, if he hasn't already, will be posting to Truth Social. Election interference. This is just another means to interfere with the election from a rigged Department of Justice. Never mind the fact that if he were president, he would be rigging the Department of Justice to wipe clean these charges, and all this evidence, whatever it is, testimony or otherwise, would just go away. Okay, so I'm being honest. My curiosity actually did get the better of me. I did look to see what he posted on Truth Social. And, oh God, what time did this actually take place when he shared this? This was a little bit before 7 p.m. on Wednesday night. For 60 days prior to an election, the Department of Injustice is supposed to do absolutely nothing that would taint or interfere with a case. They disobeyed their own rule in favor of complete and total election interference. I did nothing wrong. They did. The case is a scam, just like all the others, including the documents case, which was dismissed. All in caps. Exclamation point. Yeah, see, I told you. Again, make no mistake. This is, I know that we just heard a justice expert on ABC News telling Kira Phillips that Jack Smith wrote this to appeal to the Supreme Court, namely the 6 justices who have spurned his efforts so far to try Donald Trump prior to the election. But make no mistake, while the case may be written for the Supreme Court, the fannies sitting in the jury box are yours and mine. It's up to us. It literally is up to us, the voter, to do what Republican leadership failed to do what conservatives on the Supreme Court failed to do what I'll even go back as far as Trump's cabinet. I mean, they had the 25th Amendment remedy. They could have done this. They could have said, enough is enough. And most of them have, since leaving office, profiles in courage. But not when they had the chance to disarm him from ever being able to seek office again. No courage on that side of the aisle for all their bravado, for all their tough talk, for all their family photos with AR-15s on Christmas morning. These people aren't tough. They're feckless. They're weak. They cower at the thought of crossing that one guy. And not because he is physically domineering or even carries. Kamala Harris carries. Anyway, no, they're afraid not so much of Donald Trump. They're afraid of his minions. They're afraid of the MAGA army, the folks that literally stormed they're afraid of that mob that he was able to incite to storm the Capitol. And that all this testimony comes out. I'm calling it testimony, not evidence, because I know most of it's testimony. All this testimony comes out that confirms that he knew he didn't win, but continued to fight anyway to try and find a way to weasel his way back into the Oval Office, and then spent 2 months fomenting anger over this supposed big lie, only to then stand up in front of thousands of them on January 6th and get them frothing at the mouth and send them charging up the hill to the Capitol. I'll meet you there. And then his feckless, weaselly ass didn't even show the up. The fact that he did all of that and then sat on his duff in the White House residence and watched it all unfold. Hundreds of cops beaten, some of them by U.S. flags. Some died, not just cops, but obviously the Ashley Babbitt crazy. People died because of this. Does that make him a murderer? I mean, does it kind of not? I'm just saying, if the father of the Appalachia High School shooter has second-degree murder charges, explain it to me like I'm stupid. How Donald Trump shouldn't be facing second-degree murder charges his damn self. This is The Ron Show on America One Radio, Progressive Voices via TuneIn. Okay, final few minutes of The Ron Show. And again, based out of Atlanta, Georgia, where today we are told the chlorine plume cloud is supposed to be descending on the city today. We're supposed to have softball practice this afternoon, and I'm kind of wondering, do we do this or do we not? The world we live in today. In the meanwhile, you ever hang out at a bar, maybe one of those places where they have the jukebox where folks can kind of program a song, and you're there a couple hours. You shouldn't stay much longer, obviously, right? But anyway, you're there for a couple hours just kind of socializing with friends, and somebody keeps requesting that same song that the first time you're like, okay, hadn't heard that in a while, Macarena or something like that. And then you hear it about 20 minutes later, and you're like, okay, that's weird. And then you hear it 15, 20 minutes later, and you're like, okay, what the hell's up? Nobody wants to hear that song again. And then you start to hear the first few notes again, 20 minutes. You're tired of hearing it, right? Once again, in the aftermath of a natural disaster, we're hearing the same old song from the right.
Local, state, and federal, help has been swift to help the storm-ravaged Southeast. President Biden signed off on disaster relief before Hurricane Helene made landfall. Now, Republican governors like Georgia's Brian Kemp are putting politics aside by thanking him for his rapid response, unlike the one who isn't president.
And never will be.
Okay.
Obviously, this is The View.
Way to say it.
Well, it's really important to remind people that this man is not the president.
Yeah.
He has nothing to do with what presidents are getting done.
Right.
And I'm just a little sick and tired of him acting like he's got something to say. But who am I? Okay? Who am I?
You are a woman with a microphone.
So I want you to take a look at this clip. Maybe you'll understand why I'm so annoyed.
Yeah.
The president just called me yesterday afternoon. I missed him and called him right back. And he just said, hey, what do you need? And I told him, we got what we need. We'll work through the federal process. He offered that if there's other things we need, just to call him directly, which I appreciate that.
The governor's doing a very good job. He's having a hard time getting the president on the phone. I guess they're not being responsive. I haven't reached out to him. No, I think he's sleeping right now.
Let me get this straight. He's lying. And the governor told him he was lying. The governor told me he's lying. I've spoken to the governor, spending time with him, and he told me he's lying. I don't know why he does this. So that's simply not true, and it's irresponsible.
Yeah. And not only did his pointless photo op take up needed resources away from actually helping people, he straight up lied again to Americans. Now, I have to just keep saying, is the GOP brain dead? How can they allow him to continue to act as if he is in charge? No. And I hate looking at you because it makes it feel like I'm directing it at you, but you're the only person I can ask. What the hell's going on?
I watched this clip, and I can't believe after 4 years of time away from him, this is still what we want. Governor Brian Kemp, a popular Republican governor of Georgia, is someone I could totally support for president. He's able to show up. He's able to work across the aisle, praise Joe Biden when he needs it. But instead, we're going with this buffoon who never misses the opportunity to politicize a tragedy. And you said something important. I've been to more natural disaster visits than most people. I traveled a lot with Vice President Pence. The emergency managers on the ground, the first thing they'll tell you is they don't want VIP visits in the initial aftermath. It takes police resources. It puts a strain on the recovery efforts. But we know Donald Trump showed up because Georgia and North Carolina are critical battleground states. What we should want in leaders are people who are going to care just as much about North Carolina and Georgia if they don't vote for them and after the election.
He shows up because he thinks he knows. He actually thinks, remember what a disaster he was in the last when he was president. But I mean, he thinks because he slept with someone named Stormy that he's a weather expert. Besides that, the guy, I want to just remind people what he did when they were to slow things down. He slowed things down for blue states. In the early initial days of COVID, he did not send help to blue states. He will do that again if he ever becomes president.
Okay, Joy Behar there reminding us that Trump did politicize a lot while in office. The Stormy Daniels line, by the way, hilarious. Matthew Daly at the Associated Press reminds that as president, Trump delayed disaster aid for hurricane-devastated Puerto Rico and diverted money from the Federal Emergency Management Agency in order to finance an effort to return undocumented migrants to Mexico. By the way, Matthew Daly points this out. Project 2025, backed by Trump supporters, would restructure FEMA to limit aid to states and says that the National Weather Service, which provides crucial data on hurricanes and other storms, should be broken up and downsized. Further down in this article, which I'll include in the show notes at ronshowatl.com, it also wasn't until years after the Puerto Rico hurricane that happened under Trump's watch, just weeks before the 2020 presidential election, by the way, that Trump's administration released $13 billion in assistance for the territory. A federal government watchdog found that officials hampered an investigation into delays in aid delivery. And do I need to remind you what he said about states like California just weeks ago?
Trump also said he would withhold federal firefighting aid to California once he's in the White House.
Gavin Newsom is going to sign those papers. And if he doesn't sign those papers, we won't give him money to put out all his fires. And if we don't give him the money to put out his fires, he's got problems. He's a lousy governor.
Later in the day, California professional firefighters put out this statement saying, "It is shocking that we have a presidential candidate who is threatening our public safety and doesn't even care what the consequences are to firefighters and the public."
That from KCAL television. Anyway, I just felt compelled to point out the discrepancies in disaster response and the rhetoric that is circulating amongst those on the right. I heard from some folks back in my hometown that one of the local conservative pundits was already making quips like this, and it's just unfounded bullshit, pure and simple. Moments like these are supposed to unite us as a country, and if we cannot unite in these circumstances to help our friends and neighbors, our loved ones, then I question our ability to do so in other trying times. It's pretty scary stuff. That's going to do it for today's Ron Show. Show will replay today, 5 to 6 p.m. on America One Radio, 7 to 8 p.m. Progressive Voices via TuneIn, unless you're listening there already and you want to hear the whole thing all over again. Fine. Via podcast, that's available. Show notes at ronshowatl.com as well. See you tomorrow. Have a good one.